Hello, friends. You're watching The Night Watchman, where every day you'll hear a brand new horror story that will send chills down your spine. But to keep bringing you these terrifying tales, we need your love and support. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Now let's begin the story. I should have gone straight home after work. That thought still crawls through my mind some nights, long after everything that happened at the Northbridge, Colorado Costco, the place that paid my bills, broke my back, and almost got me killed. I'm 26, and I started working at Costco 4 years ago, right after my dad passed from a heart attack. It blindsided the whole family. I had planned to finish my last 2 semesters at Metro State University, maybe get a degree in criminal justice, maybe do something that felt like I was helping people. But loss rearranges your life like a drunk driver swerving into your lane. I dropped out. I moved home to help my mom. I took the first full-time job I could get, Costco, night shift, good pay, good benefits, exhausting everything else. That Friday should have been the start of an easy weekend. Instead, it became the night I learned just how fast things can go sideways. It was 10:57 p.m. when our last customers finally dragged their carts out the front door. The intercom chimed the usual closing message, and the moment the automatic doors slid shut behind them, the store seemed to exhale. A giant warehouse turning silent feels wrong. Too much space, too many corners where sound dies before reaching you. I leaned against register 7, rolling my sore shoulder. Inventory week is officially over, my coworker Marissa groaned, tying her frizzy hair into a bun. I swear if one more person asked me where the rotisserie chickens are, they're always gone, I muttered. No matter what time it is, she snorted. Facts. A few feet away, Leo, one of our newer hires, rubbed his eyes under the fluorescent lights. You guys want to grab something to eat? I'm starving. Marissa perked up. Oh God, yes, please, I'm dying for carbs. I shook my head. I don't know. I just want to collapse. Marissa nudged my arm. Come on, Ryan. You've been brooding all week. Let's decompress before we go insane. I'm not brooding, I lied. You're absolutely brooding, Leo added. Your vibes? Peak brooding. I sighed, rubbing my knee. The same knee I messed up 2 weeks earlier during jiu-jitsu training. Fine, but someone else is driving. This thing hurts like hell. Deal, Marissa said, grinning. Midnight Denny's? Sure, I said. Just coffee and maybe a pancake. Liar, Leo smirked. You always end up ordering like 5 things. We laughed, and for a few minutes I forgot how drained I was. We clocked out, grabbed our bags, and stepped outside into the thick Colorado night. Summer heat clung to everything. The parking lot lights cast long shadows that seemed to stretch farther than they should. I always hated how empty the lot felt after closing. Too much open space, too little movement, like the world was holding its breath. We split toward our cars. I headed toward my old black Corolla parked under the flickering pole light. I got in, cracked my knuckles, and followed Marissa's dusty blue Jeep toward Denny's off I-25. The diner smelled like burnt coffee and buttered toast the moment we walked in, comforting in a tired, slightly depressing way. Only a few people sat inside, a couple of college kids, a man in a suit scrolling his phone, and an older lady sipping tea while reading a newspaper. A waitress with a messy ponytail, Tanya, according to her name tag, guided us to a booth in the center. We slid in. I took the seat facing the door. Old habit. My dad always taught me to sit where I could see exits. What can I get you guys? Tanya asked. Coffee, lots of it, Leo said. Sweet tea, Marissa added. Just water for now, I said, massaging my knee under the table. And maybe ibuprofen if you guys have it. We've got aspirin, Tanya said. I'll grab some. The moment she walked away, Marissa leaned forward. All right, talk. About what? You've been off all week, she said softly. Is it your mom again? I exhaled. Yeah. Bills are piling up. She keeps skipping her physical therapy to save money. And I feel like I'm just stuck, like I'm drowning in place. Marissa reached over and squeezed my hand. You're doing enough. Seriously, I don't feel like I am. You're here, Leo said, and you're trying. That counts. Tanya returned with drinks and aspirin. For a few minutes we talked about normal things. Work, stupid customers, random TikTok drama. My shoulders slowly loosened. Then the bell over the door chimed. Two men walked in. Both wore thick, dark hoodies, way too hot for the season. One was tall, almost gaunt, moving in short, twitchy motions. The other was stockier, with a shaved head and a silver chain around his neck. Their eyes, glassier than anyone I'd ever seen. The tall one scanned the diner in jerky movements, barely blinking. The stocky one dragged his gaze across the room like he was memorizing every person. The air changed. I watched them walk past us, their footsteps oddly quiet. They slid into the booth directly behind ours. Too close. Close enough that I could hear their breathing. My skin crawled. Marissa kept talking, unaware. Leo was scrolling his phone. I leaned in, lowering my voice. Don't look right away, but the guys behind us, something's off. Marissa froze for half a second. Off how? They're not here to eat, I murmured. Right on cue, the tall one let out a slow sniff, a wet, dragging inhale. The sound of something tapping, fingers drumming the table. Leo frowned. What are they doing? Nothing, I said. That's what scares me. Tanya walked past carrying a tray, and I caught a glimpse of the men reflected in the metal. Two empty cups, no menus, no water. The tall one staring at Marissa's reflection, the stocky one staring at me. A cold ripple crawled up my spine. Finish fast, I whispered. We need to go. Marissa swallowed. Should we tell someone? No, just move. We ate faster than I think we ever had. I dropped some cash on the table, didn't even calculate it, and stood. My knee nearly buckled from the sudden movement. I steadied myself on the table, and that's when the stocky one leaned forward, just enough that I caught his voice. Limping, huh? He rasped. Makes things easier. My pulse spiked. I turned toward Marissa and Leo. We're leaving. Now. We pushed through the front door and into the heavy night air. The parking lot was nearly empty, just our cars and a few scattered vehicles near the edge. Okay, I said, my voice shaking despite my best effort. Marissa, get in your Jeep. Leo, start my car. What? Why? Just do it. Something in my tone must have convinced them. Marissa bolted for her Jeep. Leo sprinted toward my Corolla. I limped as fast as I could. Behind us, the diner door slammed open. Footsteps. Fast. I glanced back. The two men were coming toward us, hoods still up, faces twisted in something between rage and delight. One reached inside his hoodie. The tall one hissed, Where you running? Ryan, Leo shouted. Get in! I didn't think. I just moved. Pain shot up my leg as I limped faster. The stocky one was gaining on me. I turned the moment I reached the passenger door. Back off, I barked. For a heartbeat, they stopped. Then the tall one flashed something silver, a box cutter. He flicked the blade out with a metallic snap. Got ourselves a hero, he grinned. Leo, drive, I yelled. He hit the gas before my door even closed completely. The car jerked, tires skidding against the pavement. The two men sprinted after us, shouting something I couldn't make out. One smashed his hand against the trunk as we sped away. My heart pounded so hard I thought I might pass out. Marissa's Jeep followed close behind as we pulled onto the highway, headlights carving bright tunnels through the dark. Leo looked at me with wide, terrified eyes. Dude, what the hell just happened? I didn't answer. I couldn't. My throat felt too tight. My phone buzzed. It was Marissa. M. Are you okay? Me. Yeah. You. M. Shaking. They chased me to the car too. What were they going to do? I stared out the window as we merged onto the empty stretch of I-25. The night should have felt peaceful, safe, but all I could think about was how close it had been, how easily it could have ended differently. I closed my eyes and leaned my head back. Ryan? Leo asked quietly. What are you thinking? I swallowed hard. That if I hadn't listened to my gut, we wouldn't be alive right now. And that truth still keeps me up at night. Story 2. I never planned on stopping at a Costco at nearly 2 in the morning, but life wasn't exactly predictable back then. I was 26, living in Arrow Creek, Colorado, a mid-sized city tucked near the foothills where the nights always felt colder than they should. At that point in my life, I was trying to hold myself together more than anything else. I'd been clean from opioids for 7 months, Long enough for people to say, "I'm proud of you," but not long enough for the cravings to shut up completely. My boyfriend at the time, Mason, stuck with me through all of it. He wasn't perfect, but he tried. And when you're fighting yourself every day, someone trying is sometimes the only thing that keeps you upright. That night we were driving back from his sister's apartment. We'd gone over for a late movie and some cheap pizza. Nothing crazy. I didn't drink at all anymore, and Mason had only nursed one beer. By the time we left, it was around 1:45 a.m., and the temperature had dropped to the low 20s. Halfway home, Mason leaned back in the passenger seat and groaned. "Babe, I'm starving." I laughed under my breath. "You literally ate half a pizza." "That was hours ago," he said, rubbing his stomach like a drama student in an audition. "And we have no breakfast stuff at home." He wasn't wrong. My fridge was embarrassingly empty. Then it hit me. Arrow Creek Costco had this weird setup. The warehouse closed at midnight, but a 24-hour self-checkout annex stayed open for night shift workers, truckers, and emergency runs. It was basically half the store lit up, connected to the dark warehouse like an afterthought. "Costco?" I asked. Mason sat up a little. "At 2 a.m.? That's a first." I shrugged. "Coffee pods, eggs, something quick to eat. Might as well." We pulled into the Costco parking lot 10 minutes later. I'd never seen it so empty. 3 cars scattered near the annex entrance. One semi-truck idling further out. The lights overhead buzzed like they were struggling to stay awake. As soon as I stepped out of the car, the cold smacked me in the face, sharp enough to make my eyes water. Inside, it was even worse. The annex lights were bright but harsh, making everything feel washed out. The rest of the warehouse, behind a metal gate, was dark, a massive black hole that felt wrong, like someone could be standing in there, and you'd never know. Even Mason shivered. "This place feels off." "It's empty," I said, pushing a cart. "That's all." But even I didn't believe that. As we reached the refrigerated section, I noticed someone at the end of the aisle. A man, maybe late 20s, pacing in tight, jerky lines, his jaw clenched and unclenched, like he was chewing invisible gum. His fingers twitched at his sides. His eyes were too wide, too shiny. "Mason," I whispered, "don't stare." "I'm not," he muttered. But he wasn't exactly subtle about glancing. We moved to the next aisle, grabbing eggs and a box of burritos. That's when I heard shouting. Not loud, but sharp. A woman stormed past the aisle entrance, the same age as the man. Her hoodie sleeves twisted around her fists. Her hair was wild, sticking to her face. "Where is it?" she hissed. "Where the hell did you put it?" Her voice cracked like she'd screamed for hours. She wasn't talking to us. She wasn't talking to anyone. She was just unraveling. I swallowed hard. "We're grabbing coffee pods and leaving. I don't like this," I whispered. Mason nodded. At self-checkout, I scanned items as fast as I could. My hands were shaking, and I tried to chalk it up to the cold. But then, footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. I didn't want to look, but instincts made me turn. It was the pacing man, standing barely 5 feet behind me, staring at me like he was trying to memorize every line on my face. Not blinking, not breathing. My throat went dry. "Mason," I whispered, "we need to go." He turned, saw the man, and stiffened. "Yeah, let's bounce." I tapped the screen to finish the payment. My fingers fumbled the card twice. I could feel the man leaning closer, not physically, but in presence, in intensity, in something almost animal. The moment the receipt printed, Mason grabbed the bags and we walked fast. Too fast to be casual, not fast enough to be running. The security guard near the door didn't even lift his eyes from his phone. "Real useful," Mason muttered. Outside, the darkness felt heavier, the air sharper. We walked toward the car, and for a moment, everything was quiet. Then, thump, thump, thump. Footsteps pounding the pavement. Hard, fast. I spun. He was running straight at us. "Get in the car!" I shouted, my voice cracking. We barely made it inside before he slammed his fist against my window, so hard the whole door shuddered. "Give it back!" he screamed. His voice was shredded, chaotic. "You took her wallet! Give it back or I'll smash this window!" My heart dropped into my stomach. "What are you talking about?" I shouted through the window. We didn't take anything. Mason leaned closer. Dude, back up. We didn't touch your stuff. The woman appeared next, circling the car, pressing her face against the glass. You stole it, she shrieked. We saw you take it off the counter. What counter? I yelled. We don't even know you. The man's eyes were wild, darting, unhinged. If you don't give back her wallet, he snarled, I'll take yours. That was enough. I locked the doors, slammed the car into reverse, and hit the gas. He stumbled, then sprinted toward a black truck parked 2 rows over. The woman dove in the passenger side. Mason, I said, voice trembling. They're gonna follow us. They won't, he said. Just keep driving. Headlights roared to life behind us, and then came the horn. Long, angry. They are following us, Mason breathed. I threw the car forward, speeding out of the lot, but they were fast. Too fast. The truck flew up behind us, swerving violently, high beams flashing like a strobe light. My heart hammered so loud it drowned out everything else. They're trying to ram us, Mason yelled. I cut right, then left. My brain ran calculations, back roads, shortcuts, anything to lose them. But every time I thought we lost them, their headlights came screaming back into view. He's going to kill us, I whispered. You're doing great, Mason said, squeezing my arm. Just head to the police station. I didn't answer. I couldn't. All I could focus on was the single glowing image ahead, the blue sign of the Arrow Creek Police Department. I swerved into the lot so fast the tires screeched. The truck followed, straight in. They're not scared of cops, I whispered, horror crawling up my spine. I slammed the car into park, grabbed my phone, and dialed 911 with shaking fingers. The man jumped out of his truck, sprinting toward us again. He slammed his fists onto the window. Open the door! Give it back! The cops are coming, I screamed, tears spilling down my cheeks. You're done! For a split second, something changed in his eyes. A flicker of fear. He looked at the station, back at me, then bolted, jumped into his truck, and tore out of the parking lot like a demon fleeing daylight. 2 officers walked out moments later, calm, unbothered, like this was nothing new. After taking our statements, one of them asked, Either of you been drinking tonight? I stared at him, stunned. No, we were the ones chased. He scribbled something on a clipboard. Well, without a plate, there's not much we can do, he said. That sentence felt like a kick to the ribs. We left the station around 3:40 a.m. I didn't go home immediately. I drove aimlessly for almost an hour, circling blocks, checking mirrors, making sure no one was behind us. By the time I parked in front of my apartment, the sky was turning pink. The groceries were cold, the eggs cracked, the coffee pods useless to my trembling hands. I sat on my couch, lights off, knees pulled to my chest. I didn't cry, I didn't speak. I just kept replaying the man's voice. Give it back or die. I don't know if they were scamming people, or if drugs had burned holes in their minds, or if they truly believed we'd taken something. I just know this. I haven't stepped inside a Costco after dark since that night, and I never will again. Story 3. I never thought a routine grocery run would become one of the most terrifying nights of my life. Back then, I was 25, living in Cedar Mill, Oregon, a quiet suburban town just outside Portland. I'd moved there 2 years earlier after graduating from a small tech school. My life wasn't glamorous by any means. I worked as an assistant technician at BiteFix Electronics, a little repair shop tucked between a nail salon and a vape store off Canyon Road. The job paid the bills, barely, but it came with long hours, unpredictable schedules, and waves of customers who always brought their frustrations with them. By the time my shift ended each day, I usually felt wrung out, like a dishcloth someone twisted too hard. That Friday night, though, was different. I had a headache from staring at cracked phone screens all day, and my stomach growled because I'd skipped lunch to finish up a backed-up board repair. What I needed was groceries, actual food, not the sad ramen I had at home. And Costco was my go-to. Cheap, familiar, safe, or so I thought. It was late winter, one of those frigid Oregon nights where the cold has weight. My breath curled in the air when I stepped out of my car. The parking lot lights flickered slightly, humming like they had a secret to tell. I didn't think much of it. Routine. I walked in, grabbed a cart, and felt myself unwind a little. Something about the huge aisles, the bright lights, the smell of rotisserie chicken, it always grounded me. I started my usual loop: veggies, meat, some snacks for work. Nothing felt out of place. Not yet. I was in the dairy section, comparing prices for Greek yogurt, when I noticed a man standing weirdly still at the end of the aisle. He looked to be in his late 50s, maybe early 60s. Thin, pale, wearing a brown work jacket and an old baseball cap pulled low over his forehead. He wasn't shopping. He wasn't holding anything. He wasn't even pretending to browse. He was just staring in my direction. For a split second, our eyes met. He gave me this tiny, awkward smile, like someone who practiced friendliness in a mirror but never got it right. I forced a polite smile back and looked away. People stare sometimes. No big deal. I moved on. A few minutes later, in the cleaning supplies aisle, I saw him again. This time he was closer, much closer. He wasn't pretending to shop. Instead, he stood at the corner of the aisle, head slightly tilted, watching me with an expression I couldn't read. My chest tightened. Just weird timing, I whispered to myself as I grabbed a pack of disinfectant wipes. Costco is huge. People overlap. But then he spoke. You shop here often? His voice was gravelly, low, like he didn't use it much. I jumped slightly before turning around. Yeah, sometimes. You live around here? He asked, his expression unchanged, eyes fixed on mine. My instincts flared. I didn't want him knowing anything. Just passing through, I lied. The way he blinked, slowly, knowingly, made something icy ripple down my back. That's so, he murmured. I gave a stiff smile and rolled my cart away, increasingly uneasy. By the time I reached the snack aisle, my nerves were frayed. I just wanted to finish and go home. But there he was again. This time he was standing halfway down the aisle, leaning against a shelf like he'd been waiting. When I got about 10 feet away, he straightened and smiled again. Too wide, too familiar. Funny seeing you again, he said. I guess. I kept my voice small, neutral. You got a name, he asked. I pretended I didn't hear him and turned into the next aisle. Behind me, I heard him chuckle softly. That was the moment my fear became real. I power walked toward the front registers, my hands trembling as I loaded my items onto the belt. The cashier, Abby according to her name tag, looked me over, concerned. You doing okay? She asked. Yeah, just long day. I forced a smile. While she scanned my items, I looked around. The man wasn't visible. Relief washed through me. Maybe he stayed behind. Maybe he left. Maybe I was just tired. I paid, grabbed my receipt, and headed toward the exit. As soon as the sliding doors opened, cold air slapped my face. The parking lot was quieter now, only a few cars scattered around. I unlocked my car and started loading groceries. My breath came out in shaky puffs. Then I heard it. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Boot steps on gravel. My heart stuttered. I whipped around. He was walking toward me from between two cars, hands in his jacket pockets, eyes locked on me. My throat dried. He spoke first. You in a hurry? Please stop, I whispered. I just want to talk. I grabbed the remaining grocery bag and threw it into the back seat. I don't know you, I said, voice cracking. You sure? He said quietly. You look familiar. I slammed the door shut and ran to the driver's side. Hey, he called out. Not angry, just too calm. You dropped something. I froze. Against my will, I glanced over my shoulder. He held out his hand. It was empty. No, I said sharply. I didn't drop anything. He stepped closer. Don't be rude, he murmured. I dove into the driver's seat, locked the doors, and jammed the key into the ignition with shaking fingers. He reached my window, leaned forward, and tapped lightly, almost gently. A slow smile spread across his face, stretching unnaturally wide. You shouldn't walk alone at night, he whispered through the glass. I floored it. The car lurched forward. My tires screeched. I didn't look back. I didn't drive home immediately. I zigzagged through random streets for nearly 20 minutes to make sure no one followed me. When I finally pulled into my apartment complex, I parked near a different building and sprinted inside. I barely slept. Every noise outside my window made my muscles lock. Every shadow in the parking lot made me flinch. On Sunday, I told myself to calm down, that he probably wasn't thinking about me at all. I was wrong. Monday morning at Bite Fix was slow. My manager, Luis, was in the back. My coworker, Jayla, was at the front counter with me. Around 10:15, the door chimed. Jayla glanced up. "Welcome in." I stayed focused on the broken tablet I was working on. Then I heard Jayla's voice shift. Softer, uneasy. Sir? Can I help you?" I looked up. My stomach dropped so fast I felt dizzy. It was him. He was staring around the shop, scanning, searching. When his eyes landed on me, he smiled. The same too polite, too practiced smile. "There you are," he said quietly. Jayla shot me a look. "You know him?" "No," I said immediately. "I don't." He chuckled like we were sharing a private joke. "I saw you at Costco," he said. "Wanted to say hi." I stepped back. "You need to leave." "That's not very nice," he replied, tilting his head. "After the conversation we had." "We didn't have a conversation," I snapped. "Please leave." Jayla stepped forward. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you." He cut her off. "You lied to me," he said softly, eyes still on me. "You said you didn't live around here." Jayla's face paled. I shook my head. "Sir, please, just go." He took a step forward. "Why are you scared?" he asked. That was the moment Luis came out of the back room. Luis wasn't a big guy, but he carried himself like a brick wall. "Problem?" he asked, voice stern. The man stiffened but didn't look away from me. "No problem," he muttered after a moment. "Just trying to talk." "Time to go," Luis said, opening the door and gesturing outward. The man hesitated. Then he leaned slightly to the side so he could still see me. "You shouldn't lie to people," he murmured. My entire body turned to ice. Then he walked out and disappeared. For days after, I checked over my shoulder constantly. I asked Jayla to walk me to my car. I switched parking spots, switched routines, took different lunch breaks. I even asked Costco security about him, showing them a description. Nothing. He never showed up again. Part of me wishes he had, because at least then I'd know where he was, what he wanted. Instead, I think about him sometimes at night, about how he looked at me, about the way he said I looked familiar, about how he somehow found out where I worked after only seeing me in a grocery store. I don't know if he's still in Cedar Mill. I don't know if he ever really left, and that's what terrifies me the most, because if he's still out there, and if he's still thinking about me, I wouldn't know. Story 4. I was 6 years old the first time I understood that crowded places don't always mean safety. But before I tell you what happened inside that Costco, I need to explain who I was back then. Because every second of that day still hangs in my memory, like a photograph I never asked to keep. Back in 2004, my mom and I lived in Clearwood, Wisconsin, a quiet suburb outside Madison, where every yard had a trimmed lawn and every neighbor seemed to know each other's business. I was an only child. My dad worked construction jobs around the state and wasn't home much. Mom handled most things alone. Errands, school pickups, late-night fevers, all of it. She was 31 then, young but tired in a way that felt permanent. I remember her always saying things like, "Hold my hand tight, Eli. Big places can swallow little kids." I nodded every time, but I never really got it. Not until that day. It was a warm Thursday afternoon in late August. School had just started for the new year, second grade. I still remember the way the blue straps of my backpack dug into my shoulders. Mom pulled up in her maroon Honda Civic, her hair frizzy from the humidity, sunglasses perched crooked on her head. When I slid into the back seat, she smiled through her exhaustion. "Hey, buddy, good day?" "Yeah," I said. "Can we go home?" She sighed. "I wish, but we need to make a quick stop at Costco. We're out of, well, everything." I groaned dramatically and she laughed, even though she looked like she had no energy left. Back then, Costco in Maple Grove Plaza was my personal wonderland, big enough to feel like another world. Aisles so tall they made me feel tiny, shiny TVs all lined up in a glowing row, free samples every 10 steps. For a kid, Costco wasn't a store, it was heaven. The parking lot was overflowing when we arrived. Cars shimmered under the sun, carts clanged, and a hot breeze carried the smell of pizza from the food court. Mom grabbed my hand firmly. "Remember, don't let go, okay?" "I won't," I said. She smiled in that tired but loving way only moms can. The automatic doors slid open with a thick whoosh of cold air that felt like stepping into winter. It smelled of rubber, bread, and floor polish. I clung to Mom's hand with one hand and the metal shopping cart with the other. People hustled everywhere. Parents, employees, older couples, the usual Costco chaos. But something felt slightly off that day. I couldn't place it. Just a weird heaviness. Mom started loading the cart with snacks, paper towels, a giant pack of oatmeal she pretended was for her, but was really for me. "Can we check the books soon?" I asked. "In a minute, Eli." "Can we check toys?" "We will. I just need to grab the laundry stuff." She parked the cart at the end of the cleaning aisle and reached forward to grab detergent from a top shelf. That was the first moment she let go of my hand. Just for a second. Just long enough. I felt movement behind me. When I turned, a man stood at the opposite end of the aisle, hoodie zipped up to his chin, even though it was hot outside. A thin, patchy beard, eyes that didn't blink enough. He wasn't looking at the shelves. He was looking at me. His lips curled into a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He walked forward slowly, casually, like he wanted to look normal but didn't know how. "Hey there, buddy," he said, voice low, like he didn't want anyone else to hear. "Want to come help me pick a present for my nephew? They got cool toys here." I froze. I remembered Mom's voice. "Don't ever go with someone you don't know. Ever." My throat tightened. "No," I whispered. The man took a small step closer. "It's just right over there," he murmured, pointing vaguely toward the back of the store. "Takes 2 seconds. I'll show you something really cool." I shook my head harder. Mom turned just then, detergent in hand. "Eli, you okay?" The man straightened immediately and pretended to read the ingredients on a cleaning bottle. I moved to Mom's side so fast I almost tripped. "You ready for books?" she asked. I nodded quickly, too scared to speak. I didn't tell her. Not yet. I didn't want to make her angry for letting go. Everything after that felt like walking in a dream. Mom checked the list, humming anxiously like she always did when she was overwhelmed. She kept the cart close but didn't notice I was glued to her side tighter than usual. 20 minutes later, I felt something heavy in my stomach. "Mom," I whispered, "I have to use the bathroom." She sighed. "Okay, but you have to be quick, Eli. I'm going to stay in this line. You know where it is, right? Straight down the hallway?" I nodded even though my chest tightened the moment she let go of my hand. "Go on," she said gently. "I can see the hallway from here." Don't worry. But I did worry. Still, I ran toward the back of the store. The hallway leading to the restrooms was quieter, narrower, the sounds of carts and chatter fading behind me. My sneakers squeaked on the polished floor. I reached for the restroom door, and that's when a hand grabbed me from behind. A big hand, rough, dirty, clamping over my mouth so fast I didn't even breathe. My scream died in his palm, the same man, the man from the cleaning aisle. His other hand wrapped around my arm, squeezing so tight it felt like my bones were cracking. "Shh," he whispered, voice trembling with excitement. "It's okay. I just want to show you something. Don't yell." I couldn't breathe, couldn't move, couldn't think. My tears soaked into his fingers. He dragged me back into the deeper part of the hallway, where the freezer pallets were stored, where no one ever looked. "Stop squirming," he hissed. "You're fine. Just be quiet." His breath was hot and sour against my ear. My heart pounded so hard I felt sick. Some instinct I didn't understand kicked in. I bit him, hard, hard enough to taste blood. He screamed, an ugly, feral sound, jerking his hand away. I inhaled a lungful of cold air and screamed louder than I ever had in my life. "Mom! Mom!" My voice echoed down the hallway like a siren. 2 employees unloading pallets sprinted toward us. "What the hell? Hey!" one shouted. The man shoved me so hard I hit the floor. Pain shot up my elbow. He turned and bolted down the hallway, disappearing into the crowd like smoke. "Are you hurt?" an employee kneeling beside me asked. I shook my head, sobbing uncontrollably. Mom came flying into the hallway seconds later, pushing past employees, past startled shoppers. When she saw me on the floor, she let out a sound I will never forget, a mix of terror and guilt and heartbreak. She grabbed me, holding me so tight I could barely breathe. "Oh my God, Eli! Oh my God, what happened? What happened?" Her voice cracked with every word. I could only sob into her chest. The employees radioed security. Security locked the doors. Managers ran everywhere. Shoppers stared as Mom rocked me on the cold floor. Footage later showed the man had been wandering around for almost an hour, never buying anything, always watching kids, sometimes smiling to himself like he was talking to someone no one else could see. But when employees chased him, he disappeared into the flood of people exiting before the doors locked. He was never caught. Not even once. I'm 26 now. I live in St. Paul. I work at a small mechanic shop. My life is normal, stable, quiet. But every time I step inside a big store, Costco, Walmart, Target, it hits me again. The smell of floor polish, the sound of carts, the long hallway leading to the bathrooms. My chest gets tight. My hands shake. My lungs feel too small. I still hear his whisper sometimes, still feel his hand, still see the way his eyes darted around like he had already planned where he wanted to take me. I go shopping with my sister now sometimes. She has a little boy, my nephew Jonah. He's 6, same age I was. Every time we go inside a store, she jokes, "You hold him too tight," and I always say, "You have no idea." Because I know exactly how close I came to being carried out of that Costco and never seen again. I know exactly what almost happened, and I know one thing for the rest of my life. I will never ever let go of Jonah's hand. Not even for a second. Story 5, I never planned on ending up in Portland, Oregon, let alone working nights at a Costco off Airport Way. If you'd asked me at 21 what I thought my life would look like by 28, I'd have painted a very different picture. Something like finishing my degree, a halfway decent apartment, maybe even a dog. But real life has a way of shifting the ground under you so fast you don't even notice you're falling. When my dad got sick in 2022, I dropped everything, classes, work, savings, and moved back home to help Mom take care of him. He passed 8 months later. Cancer doesn't ease in quietly. It tears through a family like a storm. After the funeral, the bills hit us harder than the grief. Hospital debt, missed payments, the house repairs we kept putting off. It all piled up until Mom had to sell our place in Idaho. She moved to Ohio with my aunt, and I ended up in Portland with whatever jobs I could get. That's how I wound up applying for the overnight shift at Costco. The pay wasn't amazing, but it was steady. Steady became my favorite word. I didn't care that the nights were long and lonely. I didn't mind the cold loading docks or the way the fluorescent lights hummed like they were shaking apart. I liked the routine. I liked that no one expected more from me than showing up and scanning boxes. The team clocked in at 10 p.m., did our safety checks, and usually split into groups of 2 or 3. We joked on walkies, complained about frozen chicken pallets, or listened to music through one earbud. Nights were simple, predictable, until the Tuesday night in early November, the night that rewired something deep inside me. That night I was assigned to aisle 21 and the back section by receiving. Aisle 21 was bulk snacks, cleaning supplies, and holiday displays. Receiving was near the emergency exits and the loading docks, the coldest, quietest place in the building. "Nobody wants that end," my coworker Jake joked as we clocked in. "But hey, maybe you'll meet a ghost." I forced a laugh. "Funny, a haunted Costco." He shrugged, slinging his scanner gun over his shoulder. Stranger things have happened. Around midnight, most of the team drifted toward aisles closer to the front for restocking. The warehouse felt huge at night, rows stretching into darkness, forklifts humming somewhere far away, the echo of footsteps bouncing back from rafters 60 feet up. I had one earbud in, low volume, listening to an old playlist while scanning through boxes of detergent. "Isaac, you good back there?" my supervisor June asked over walkie. "Yeah," I said, "just freezing. That area always feels colder. Let me know if you need someone with you." I appreciated the concern, but I liked being alone. Or at least I thought I did. About an hour into my shift, I noticed something odd. The emergency exit in the far corner, the one we were constantly told must stay shut, was slightly open. Not a lot, maybe 2 inches. Enough for the orange glow of the parking lot light to slip in. A cold draft pushed against my face. Again? I muttered under my breath. Someone had been chewed out the week before for not closing it all the way. I started walking toward it, boots tapping on the concrete, but halfway down the short corridor I stopped. Someone was standing there. I froze, thinking maybe I was misreading a shadow. But no, the silhouette was unmistakable. A tall man, thin, shoulders hunched forward, hair messy like he'd been caught in the rain. Uh, hello? I called out, my voice cracking slightly. No answer. He didn't turn, didn't move. Sir, you can't be back here, I said louder. This area is employees only. Still nothing. A pressure tightened in my chest. Not fear yet, but something close. Every instinct told me to back up, call security, do anything except take another step. But responsibility or stupidity made me walk closer. Hey, I said, hand inching toward my walkie. I'm calling. The man suddenly bolted. I jumped back so hard I hit the wall. He sprinted down the side hallway, disappearing between pallets stacked with winter merchandise. No sound, no stumbling, just gone. My breath hitched. June, someone's in receiving, I said into the walkie. He ran toward holiday overstock. What? Stay where you are, Isaac. Security's on the way. I waited where I was until security did a quick sweep. Nothing. No footprints, no movement, no unlocked doors. Probably someone slipping out from the dock earlier, the guard said, though his tone was uncertain. Just keep your walkie on. I tried to shake it off. People sneak in. It happens. We all know that. I went back to stacking the new shipment of paper towels and disinfectant wipes. The aisle was quiet again, save for the hum of the lights. Then I felt something wet hit the back of my neck. What the? I wiped at it, thinking maybe I brushed against a leaking bottle. My fingers came away slick, thick, warm. My stomach twisted. There were no leaks in Costco ceilings. Ever. Before I could process it, I heard a faint creak above me. I looked up, and my breath left my body. The man was perched on top of the tall industrial shelf, at least 20 feet high, crouched like some animal. His head tilted too far to one side, his eyes wide, his mouth slightly open, drool stringing down from his lips onto me. He wasn't breathing hard. He wasn't scared. He was just watching me. I whispered, "What the hell?" The metal shelf trembled as he shifted. "Isaac, check in," June said on walkie. I couldn't even reach for it. Then he lunged. I screamed and ran, nearly slipping on a pallet wrap as I tore out of the aisle. "Security, receiving now," I yelled into the walkie. He's up on the racks." I didn't look back. I heard the crash of boxes hitting the floor behind me, heard the slam of something heavy, maybe him, landing on the concrete. When I reached the main aisle where the overhead lights were brighter, I grabbed the nearest thing that could be used as a weapon, a steel pole used to adjust top shelves. Jake came jogging from the front, confused and half asleep. "Dude, what happened?" "He was on the shelf," I gasped. "He jumped. He was..." "Who?" "A guy. He was drooling on. Just call security." By the time 2 guards arrived, the man was gone again. We searched everywhere. Behind pallets, through the freezer hall in the employee bathroom, even up in the steel rafters. Nothing. Security checked the doors. All locked, all sealed. No alarms triggered. "He didn't leave the building," I said quietly. One guard shook his head. "If someone was in here, cameras would have picked it up." I didn't argue. I just went home that morning with shaking hands and a feeling like someone had scraped their fingers along my spine. But the worst part came the next afternoon. June called me before my shift. "Can you come in early?" she asked. "Security wants to show you something." I drove to Costco with a pit in my stomach. In the tiny security office, the overnight guard, Ramos, pulled up footage from the previous night. "Just watch," he said. The camera switched to receiving. There I was, stacking boxes. In the far corner, barely visible unless you looked for it, was the emergency door. The man stood there, still, silent, for over an hour. Every few minutes he leaned forward and pushed the door open an inch, then pulled it back, testing it, timing something. June covered her mouth. You didn't tell me he was there that long. I didn't know, I whispered. But the worst part wasn't the waiting, it was what he did next. The footage showed him slowly climbing up the industrial shelf, not struggling, not trying to find footing, climbing like he had done it 100 times. Smooth, unnatural, wrong. He crouched on top of the racks for 20 minutes, watching me, drooling. Every so often his head jerked in small, fast movements, like he was listening for something only he could hear. Then the footage froze on his face. Even half hidden in grainy shadow, his eyes were too wide, too hollow, and his mouth hung open in a stretched, unnatural grin. We're thinking it's some transient who slipped in before closing, Ramos said, though he didn't sound convinced. But we still can't figure out how he left. He never appeared on any exit camera. I stared at the frozen image. My pulse thudded in my ears. He didn't leave, I whispered. June put a hand on my shoulder. Isaac, do you want to transfer stores? I can put the request in today. I nodded without looking away from the screen. 2 weeks later, I started at a different Costco in Beaverton. I still work nights. I still walk the aisles alone. But I never listen to music anymore. I don't joke about ghosts, and I check every emergency door at least twice. Because the scariest things in a dark, empty warehouse aren't ghosts. They're the people who know how to hide in the places you never look. Story 6, I never used to get scared in public places. I grew up in Willow Bend, a quiet suburb outside Tacoma, Washington, where grocery stores felt more like community centers than anything else. My mom used to joke that I learned to walk in the produce aisle of a Costco, wobbling between stacks of strawberries and crates of apples. Maybe that's why, even as an adult, Costco became my comfort zone. I'm 29 years old, working as a financial analyst for a logistics firm in downtown Tacoma. It's not glamorous, it's not fun, but it pays the bills and it keeps me from moving back into my childhood bedroom, where my mother still keeps my old superhero posters on the wall. For years, I made the same Friday ritual. Finish work, hit the Costco on Greenwood Avenue, grab groceries for the week, maybe a hot dog if I was feeling reckless, then head home to my one-bedroom apartment across town. It was simple, predictable, safe, at least it used to be. It started on a freezing Friday evening in November, the kind where the air stings your cheeks and your breath hangs in front of you like smoke. I'd just finished a 12-hour day, the kind that leaves your brain fried and your spine aching. I stepped out of the office to a blast of cold wind and immediately regretted wearing only a thin jacket. Long day, my coworker Darren asked, locking up his car as I approached mine. Feels like someone stapled spreadsheets to the inside of my skull, I muttered. He laughed. Don't forget the waters. Storm advisory says we're getting hit this weekend. Yeah, I grumbled, climbing into my SUV. But he was right, and my fridge was embarrassingly empty. Costco was my best shot. The parking lot was packed when I got there, glowing under harsh yellow lights. People rushed to their cars with overflowing carts. Massive packs of chicken breasts, 30-roll bundles of paper towels, boxes of holiday decorations. The place was buzzing, but the cold made everything feel sharper, tighter. Inside, the warmth hit me instantly. The store smelled like coffee and cinnamon from the bakery section. Kids ran around with churros, employees shouted about sample tables, and a couple argued loudly about which winter jacket was more practical. I grabbed a cart. All right, I whispered to myself. Water, eggs, chicken, veggies, maybe coffee if it's on sale. 10 minutes in, I felt it, that weird sensation of being watched. I brushed it off until I saw him, the man in the black jacket. Tall, maybe 6 feet 3 inches. Black puffy coat, dark jeans, a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes, and an empty cart. What threw me off wasn't how he looked. It was how he moved. Slow, deliberate, almost like he wasn't shopping at all. More like he was drifting, following currents no one else felt. I turned down the cereal aisle. He appeared at the far end. I went to produce. A few minutes later, he passed behind me, not grabbing anything. I tried convincing myself I was being stupid. Costco was huge. People overlapped. That was normal. But every section I moved to, Frozen foods, dairy, canned goods. He somehow found his way there. Not close, not obvious, but present. Always present. By the time I checked out, I had convinced myself it was just coincidence. He didn't approach me. He didn't say anything. He didn't even look at me directly. Still, I rushed loading my groceries into the car, the cold air biting my fingers. When I pushed my cart into the return area, I glanced across the parking lot and froze. He was standing 3 rows away, hands in his pockets, head tilted slightly down, just watching. Or maybe not watching. Maybe just standing. But it felt wrong. My pulse spiked. I jumped into my car and locked the doors. I looked up. He was gone. "Relax," I whispered. "You're tired. You're paranoid." But when I pulled out of my parking spot and a dark sedan rolled out 2 rows behind me, headlights flicking on at the same moment, my stomach sank like a stone. I drove toward the exit. It followed. I took a left. It took a left. I took a random right. It did too. My throat tightened. Okay, no, no. I passed my street on purpose. The sedan didn't turn. 5 minutes later, I swung into a well-lit Chevron gas station and parked right next to the entrance. The attendant raised his eyebrows as I practically sprinted inside. "You good?" he asked. "Yeah, just looking." Through the large window, I watched the sedan creep by. Slow, too slow, until it disappeared past the intersection. 10 minutes later, I went home. I didn't sleep well, but the next morning I convinced myself it was nothing. People get followed accidentally. People drive the same direction. People stand weirdly in stores. It was fine. Life went on. A week later, another Friday, another empty fridge. I should have chosen a different store. I even told myself to. But habit is a powerful thing, and Costco had the best prices. I pulled into the parking lot at 8:15 p.m., and the moment I walked inside, my heart dropped. He was there. Same black jacket, same empty cart, standing near the entrance, hands tucked in pockets. I froze. No way, this wasn't coincidence. He looked up, almost like he had been waiting. I swallowed hard. "Get your stuff. In and out. Don't panic." I turned into the produce aisle, grabbing things way too fast. My hands shook as I placed apples in a bag. I heard footsteps, a slow, measured rhythm, coming down the aisle. I didn't look. I couldn't. I pushed my cart toward the dairy section. The crowd was thinning. Costco closed in less than an hour. The once bustling store felt quieter, emptier. The overhead lights suddenly felt too bright, the aisles too long. Halfway down frozen foods, I checked behind me. He was there, closer than before. My chest tightened. My voice cracked as I whispered, "Why is this happening?" I considered telling an employee, but what would I say? "Hi, a guy with an empty cart is near me." They'd think I was overreacting. I made one mistake, a big one. I turned into the massive walk-in freezer aisle, aisle 19, thinking I could lose him. The moment I entered, dread curled in my stomach. It was empty. Absolutely empty. The hum of the industrial freezers drowned everything out. My breath came out in white clouds as I hurriedly grabbed random frozen meals I didn't even want. Then, footsteps, slow, steady, behind me. I spun around. He was there, just a few feet away. Up close, he looked even more wrong. His face was half covered by his coat collar. His eyes were hidden under the brim of the hat. But I could see his mouth, a tight, unnatural smile stretching at the corners. "Can I help you?" I whispered. No answer, just that faint smile. My legs trembled. Then in a voice so low I barely heard it, he murmured, "You left too soon last time." My blood turned to ice. "What?" I breathed. He reached into his jacket. Instinct roared through me. I slammed my cart into him as hard as I could and sprinted. The wheels screeched against the polished floor. Behind me, I heard his shoes slap the ground as he recovered and started running. "Help!" I screamed. My voice tore out of my throat, raw and desperate. Employees looked up, startled. One shouted, "Ma'am, what's wrong?" I didn't stop. I barreled past the self-checkout area, through the vestibule, toward the exit. A hand grabbed my shoulder. I screamed and twisted. It was a security guard, barely 20, wide, panicked eyes. "What happened?" he gasped. I turned back toward the store. The man was gone, vanished, like he was never there. Police arrived. I gave my statement with shaking hands. "He followed me," I told them. "He chased me." The officers exchanged looks but didn't interrupt. Security pulled up the camera feeds, and the lead officer, Officer Landon Meyer, said something that nearly made me vomit. "There's nobody behind you," he said gently. "We watched the whole tape, aisle by aisle. You're alone." "No," I whispered, shaking my head violently. "No, he was right there. I spoke to him." "We believe you were scared," Officer Meyer said, "but the footage, it shows only you." I stared at the screen. He was right. Every frame showed me, running, looking over my shoulder, screaming for help. But the aisles behind me? Empty, cold, fluorescent, empty. I drove home in a fog, barely able to breathe. When I reached my apartment, I locked every door, every window, every latch. But sleep never came, because every time I closed my eyes, I heard that voice again. "You left too soon last time." What did that mean? What had he wanted? And why? Why wasn't he on the cameras? It's been 3 months. I stopped going to that Costco, stopped shopping at night, stopped walking anywhere alone. But sometimes in quiet aisles of smaller stores, I still feel it. A shift in the air, a slow set of footsteps, something just out of the corner of my eye. And when I turn, there's no one. Maybe he was real. Maybe he wasn't. But deep down, I know the truth. Some shadows don't stay in the dark. Some follow you home.